Hello all, and good morning, everyone. You're looking at the Endpoint Management Solutions portfolio. These are the list of products what we offer under Endpoint Management section in ManageEngine. And today I'm going to extensively talk about the Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So welcome you all for the Mobile Device Manager Plus training program. My name is Ruben Karthik, and I'm a product specialist. I'm associated with ManageEngine for the past 6 years. I do the training and implementation for the endpoint management section. So this is our training schedule. This is a 3-week series, and we have made it in a way where the first week, today, I'm going to demonstrate about the onboarding process of the devices you have and how we can configure certain basic provisioning policies to your devices. And followed by second week, it will be about the app management and device security provisioning. And at the end of the training, I'll be demonstrate about the modern management of Windows 10 and Macintosh computer using our Mobile Device Manager Plus product. And all these sessions will be recorded, and you can find the same in the below mentioned URL. And also, the registered participants will get the recorded training video once after the webinar is over. All right, let's see the training agenda, what I have in the store for today. So first, I'm going to give a quick introduction about the Mobile Device Manager Plus product and the architecture and prerequisites needed to manage your end devices using our solution. And then I'll be demonstrating how you can onboard your devices which are already in use and the new devices. And once after enrolling the devices, how you could deploy certain basic policies to make the device usage ready. And in case if you have some BYOD devices, how you can containerize the work profile on the personal devices will also be demonstrated today. And how we could restrict the unauthorized access to your corporate email account will also be demonstrated. And at the end, I'll be sharing you certain real-time scenarios and the solutions, the best solutions for it, which I have faced in my support experience. Meanwhile, if you, the viewers, have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I have an experted panel with me who would be answering your questions right away. All right, let's see the overview of Mobile Device Manager Plus product. So these are the list of operating systems which you could manage using our MDM. You could manage Apple devices, Android, Windows, and Chromebook. And when it comes to the device type, it could be a smartphone, it could be a tablet and laptop, and even Android or Apple TVs can also be managed within our solution. And the Mobile Device Manager component itself is available in 3 flavors. One as an add-on component to the Desktop Central, which is a unified endpoint management software. You could manage both laptop and mobile devices under a single console, and which is also available on both on-premise and cloud version. And in case if you're looking for a dedicated or a standalone MDM solution, then we do offer the Mobile Device Manager Plus standalone product to you, which on both on-premise and cloud. And if you have any service provider as an audience today, we do have this Mobile Device Manager Plus MSP architecture, like a multi-tenant architecture, where you could manage devices under different customers. And that is also available on both on-premise and cloud versions. And we understand an MDM administrator would like to integrate with as many applications as possible. That's the reason we provide the direct integrations of MDM with our own app development software called Zoho Creative. And also you can integrate with the client relationship management tool called Zoho CRM. And also you can integrate with other help-desk solutions like Zendesk, ServiceNow, Spiceworks, Jira Service Desk, and our own ticketing software called ManageEngine Service Desk Plus. And in case if you're looking to integrate with any other tool apart from the ones which is listed here, you do have the API-based integration. You can also refer to the below mentioned URL. If not, you can even reach us via live chat or to any of the support mode, and our team will be able to help you with that. Let's say the Mobile Device Manager Plus architecture. So be it any MDM solution, this is going to be the universal architecture to manage your devices. And this involves 3 major components. One, the MDM server. second, the notification services, and third, the end device itself. So these are the three major components which plays a role in managing your end devices. And in order to understand the architecture or the workflow better, let's take an example. As an admin, I might wish to track down one of my employees' device. So what I'll do, I'll go to the MDM console, enable location tracking, and that command will be sent to the notification services first. So if it is an Apple device, this command will be sent to the Apple push notification service. In case of it is Android, it goes to the Firebase cloud messaging. So ultimately, whatever command you initiate from the server will go to the notification services first. From there, the notification services will use the device UDID or the IMEI number, and it will wake up the devices, which in turn will contact the MDM server to process the command. So in this case, once the device contacts the server, it knows it has to perform the geocard, the location tracking. So it performs that and sends the geocoordinates back to the MDM server. And as an admin, I'll be able to see that in a map view within the product UI. So this is how the workflow will be, or the architecture flow for the MDM product. And in case if you go with an on-premise model and you don't want to expose your MDM server, because as you see, the devices needs to contact the server to process the command. And if you're using an MDM on-premise model, and you might need to expose your MDM server with a public IP address or an FTDWIN, and if you don't wish to expose in a way, then you do have an additional component called secure gateway, using which you'll be able to communicate with the devices. And this secure gateway component will redirect the communication only to the MDM server. So in order to know or discuss more about your own implementation or the requirements you have, you can also rise for a free online demonstration, which our team will be able to schedule like a one-on-one session with our technician, and will be able to provide the appropriate consultation for setting the product up. And you can also integrate with directory services for easy user assignment, which you would see down the line in today's training. And so these are the list of ports required in managing your devices when you go with an on-premise model. So the devices will use 9383 port for communicating with the server. An MDM server will use 443 to reach the notification services, and device to notification service will go through these ports. And if you would like to know more about the inbound and outbound port details, you can also visit the below mentioned URL. And now you might wonder, how does an MDM actually manage the devices? So even as we saw in the architecture, the solution also follows the client and server model. So obviously, you need to have an MDM component installed in all the devices you're going to manage. And there are a couple of methods, which is what I'm going to show in today's training. So when it comes to Android, you need to necessarily have the ME MDM app deployed on the devices. And when it comes to Apple, Windows, and Chrome devices, you don't need to deploy the app necessarily, but you just need to download the MDM profile, and you might need to install, which we will use the native OS client available on these devices, through which you'll be able to manage them. So it not necessarily need an app. You just need to deploy the MDM profile on the OS, through which you can manage. And there are a couple of methods we have, and that's what I'm going to show on the enrollment process now. So before I walk you through the process of enrollment or the methods of onboarding your devices, let me quickly take you to the product console and show you the tabs and options available in our MDM. So under home section, this is how the MDM console would look. And under the home section, an admin will be able to see the device type and the OS platform split up and the apps installed on the Navigator view. And even an admin will be able to see the audit log details here in case if you have a role-based administration where multiple technicians plays a role in managing the devices. A super admin will be able to see which action has been performed by which technician. An audit log feed will also be updated real time. And in case if an admin wants to see what are the Android devices they manage using a solution, they can just click on this link, which automatically takes you to the inventory page and show you the list of devices you have, which filters only for the Android section. An admin under inventory can see the list of devices you manage, the username and email address and the OS version, and all of the required details. You'll be able to enable it here. So inventory gives you the asset details of the devices you manage, and device management section is where the basic management activities would be done, like grouping the devices based on the department or based on the requirement, because this would help the MDM administrator to select the group and deploy the policies or application to the users. At the same time, you can also choose an individual device and also deploy the policies to them. And here is where you do the profiles and app management part, and you would be able to navigate all these tabs. You'll be able to understand all these options at the end of the third week training program. And enrollment is where you onboard your devices, and there are a couple of methods we have, which I'll be demonstrating in today's session. And reporting helps you. There are certain predefined reports which helps the administrator to see some reports real time. Let's say I want to know which are the jail token devices which might be added to the management scope. If not, say I want to know which are the devices has the Zoho Meetings application deployed. So I can just choose the appropriate app name and generate a report. In case if you would like to schedule the reports on a periodic basis, let's say I want to know what are the apps installed on a day-to-day basis, you can just go to report section, choose the new apps detected or app installation summary, and you'll be able to schedule the frequency as well. Say I want to get these reports on every Monday and Friday. So I would choose the appropriate date and time, and even choose the format for the reports has to be sent, and I'll update my email address. Even multiple email IDs can be mentioned. So accordingly, based on the schedule time, the reports will be sent to the administrators. And admin tab is where you do the administration tasks like adding user, defining rules to the technician, and even if you like to rebrand the company logo instead of ManageEngine MDM, if you wish to keep your own logo, you can even update those details here. And if you have an on-premise model and set up the secure gateway or migrate the database to MS SQL like this, you could do all the basic administration jobs here. And support tab helps you to reach our support team through these channels. So you do have live chat, which helps you to instantaneously get in touch with our chat team, and this works 24/5. You can reach our team at any time, and we'll be there to help you. In case if you wish to prefer talking over the phone instead of or chatting with the users, you do have support toll-free numbers available. And if you wish to submit a request for remote sessions, you do have an option to click on request support, and you can update the details and update the preferred time for the session. And that will also create a support ticket in our portal. So these are the different types of support modes we have, and you can get in touch with our team accordingly. All right, let's get into the topic for today. So enrolling a device. So for this to demonstrate, let me consider myself as an admin, and I work for an organization called Zilker. So I have some devices which needs to be onboarded. So I have two types of device. One with the devices which are already in use, and this is with the employees which needs to be onboarded. And there are a couple of new devices as well. So I'm going to show you the devices which are already in use and how we can onboard them to our product. And there are two ways through which you can onboard or enroll a device which are already in use. So there is one with enrollment via invite. So you can send an email invitation or an SMS invite through which the users can accept and register the device. And second, a self-enrollment portal, like the users will have a URL through which they can access from the device browser and then register the phones within the MDM solution. And these methods will come into the picture when if a device is being personally owned, like a BYOD device. Second, if a device is corporate purchase, that's just going to be handed over to the employees with minimal restriction, then you can go with this type of enrollment. And in case if you're using any other MDM solution currently and you're going to migrate that to an MDM, ManageEngine MDM without doing a reset, then also you could go with these method of enrollment. And benefits of onboarding these devices through email or self-enrollment is it isolates the personal and corporate information on the same device itself. For an iOS phone, you will not be able to literally see it. It's like a virtual container will be created. But however, on Android phone, you literally see a workspace created and the apps will carry a briefcase icon, which depicts these are the work application being deployed through this MDM. So it isolates personal and work profile. And also you can prevent unauthorized access by configuring a strong password policy to access or unlock the work profile. And even you can prevent sharing the data within the same phones. Like if the user tries to share files from work application to a personal app, that can also be restricted. So these are certain benefits you can avail when you onboard a personal device or a BYOD device into the management scope via these methods. So first, let me show you how we can onboard with email invitation. And this is the diagrammatic workflow. An admin would be sending an email or an SMS invite that the users will accept the invitation either by scanning the QR code or accessing the enrollment URL, and then the device will be registered. So let me take you to the product console and show you how we can register your device. The enrollment is where you're going to onboard your phone, and there are a couple of methods. We have like almost 10 different ways. First, I'm going to show you how we can enroll a device via invite. And if you're going to manage Apple devices, either iOS or iPad or Mac OS, the Apple push notification service is mandatory. So Apple demands the MDM solutions to have an APNS certificate uploaded to your instance. Only then you will be able to manage the Apple devices, be it an iPhone, iPad, or a MacBook. You need to have the APNS certificate for it. So I have already uploaded the certificates to my portal. So that's why you could see some options like this. In case if we haven't started onboarding any Apple devices yet, and if you're looking for a way, the APNS is a mandatory step which needs to be done. And you can go, it's like a three-way process. So where you would click on APNS certificate, and this is how the portal would look like. So either if you have an Apple ID, you can directly sign into the Apple push notification portal and start uploading the certificate from our end. If not, you can create an Apple ID event. So we will give you these links within the product console itself. Once after you click on sign in option, this is how the APNS portal would look like, where you might need to choose create a certificate as an option, and then accept the terms and conditions. Once that is done, you need to choose the file which has been downloaded from our MDM. So if you go back, you would have the vendor signed CSR certificate file available in our MDM. So you might need to download this file and upload it in the APNS portal. So once after you select the file, you need to upload, which will generate another certificate from the Apple push notification portal itself. So you need to download this and upload it back to our product. This is like a two-way handshake. You get a file from our solution, upload it in the Apple portal, then you get a certificate from there and re-upload back here. So this is how you complete the integration with APNS certificate. Once this is done, only then you would be able to onboard your Apple devices. So for that, you can go to the devices section, enroll device, choose iOS or iPad. And here you can send out invites either to the users directly. You can type the username and you'd be able to send an invitation to them. If not, if you have the devices with you on hand, say like mentioned at the beginning, it could be a company device, but it's going to be handed over for the personal use. Then you can even do the enrollment by yourself. So you can choose any of these methods and click on send. And this will send out the email invites to the appropriate user address. And this is how the email template will even look like on the user end. This very same information will be displayed or will be sent as an email to the employees through whom you're going to send out the invites to. And the users can either open the camera and scan the QR code, which will download the MDM profile. If not, the users can click on this enrollment link. So once the user clicks on this enrollment link, they have to download the profile and register. And this is how the screen would even look like on the user end. Once after the user scans the QR code or click on the enrollment URL, it will prompt the users to download the profile. So you need to click on continue and allow the profile to download. Once the profile is downloaded, it will not be installed right away. So an user has to go to the settings section, click on profile downloaded, needs to verify whether this is coming from the appropriate MDM source, then you install the profile. So once the profile is installed, the users would be able to see that the device has been managed by the appropriate MDM instance. So this is how an enrollment would be done via email invite. So an admin will send the invitation and the user has to complete it. Either if you have the device with you on hand, you'd be able to do this very same step in case of the end devices are already with the employees, and they might need to follow the same process. And once the devices are enrolled, you could see them under the Manage section. And when it comes to enrollment pending, so these are the invites which has been sent, and you could see the status here. The enrollment invite has been sent, and whether you need to resend the invitation again, and you would know about the stage section down the line. But ultimately, if a device has been onboarded completely, if it is enrolled successfully, you'll be able to see those information under the Manage tab. And when it comes to sending out an invite, either as an SMS or an email invite, this invite is specific to an individual user and an OS. So you might need to choose the appropriate OS and send the user information to send out the invites to. And then the OTP will also expire in 7 days. The user has to complete the enrollment within 7 days time. And in case if you're looking for a way to bulkly send the invitation to the users, then you do have an option here under Manage Bulk Enrollment. You can click on the sample CSV file where you might need to mention the username, email address, and the platform time, which are the mandatory fields, and you might need to send the invitation to the users. So you can upload a CSV file and also send bulk email invites to the appropriate employees. And the second method of onboarding a personal device device are the devices which are already in use. Then you could go with the self-enrollment as well, where an admin will publish a common URL, and the user has to access this URL, and that will download the profile or an app. Once the app has been downloaded, you will have the user has to provide their AD credentials. If it be any directory service, they have to provide their AD credentials to register the devices. I'll even show you how. They can go to the enrollment again, self-enrollment. This is where the URL would appear. And here you can choose the enrollment to all your Active Directory groups or only to selected groups. I'll tell you why we have made the Active Directory authentication as a mandatory process here. Because once after the user accesses this URL, they have to provide their AD username and password. And it could be any directory service. It could be an on-premise AD or an Azure Active Directory or a G Suite or an offline integration. You can integrate with any of these directory services, and you can choose the appropriate groups here. Because since this URL is common for across all the platforms, so any users can access this link and they can download the app and register the devices. And in case if that has been done, they will also be able to see the corporate apps and document being published to the employees. So that is the reason we have made the authentication as directory services. And even when it comes to an email invite, there is an OTP which is generated per invite. But here, without authentication, will not be able to publish a common URL for enrollment. So you have to choose whether you want to allow the self-enrollment access for all the Active Directory users or only to selected groups. So if we go with selected groups, only for the senior technicians or say testing department or developers, if you wish to go this way, and only those group of users will be able to register the devices themselves. Rest of them will need an email invite or an administrator perform enrollment to onboard the devices. And you can also limit the number of devices per user can onboard. So one user might have an iPad and an iPhone or say a smartphone and a laptop. They could limit the type of the number of devices they enroll through the self-enrollment. And also you can automatically classify these devices which are onboarded through self-enrollment into a group. Like say for Android, I've added as a test group. In case of test for Apple, I would also make them added to new drivers or sales group. Likewise, you can choose the appropriate group name here. The advantage of defining these sections here is once after the device is onboarded and then they will be added to this particular group, and whatever policies or whatever document and application being deployed to this group will also be automatically applied to the newly added member or the device through self-enrollment. Let me show you how the UI would look like when the user accesses the self-enrollment link. So it will also download the MDM app on the device, and on the app, the users can specify, they can either scan the QR code or choose the on-premise or cloud version details. And if it is on-premise, they might need to mention the server name and port details here. Once that is done, they'll be prompted to provide their AD user credentials, and then they can have to click on continue, which will create the work profile on the device. Once the enrollment is completed, you could see the list of apps being deployed to the device or a group, and which will have a briefcase icon. So this is how the self-enrollment would look like. So these are the two methods through which you can onboard the devices which are already in use. So it could be a personal or a company phone, which is already in use or with the employees. So these are the two methods through which you can onboard. And the other methods, which is mentioned under Apple, Android, and then these are the techniques used for the new devices, which I'm going to demonstrate to you now. And the one which you see on the top, like enroll devices via invite, and the self-enrollment is applicable for the devices which are already in use. And now, as in case if you, the viewers, have any questions related to the enrollment part so far, please feel free to post them in the chat, and our panel team can help you. Now I'm going to demonstrate about the enrollment of new devices. And as we know, when it comes to a new device, the initial setup has to be manually done by the user, and an admin or a user intervention is required for the enrollment so far. But here, we are going to automate all of these things in a simple way. And we have one method for Apple devices and two methods for Android. These are the automated enrollment methods. I would classify even this as the over-the-air enrollment. You don't need to necessarily have the devices on hand. Just by using the device serial number, you'd be able to remotely activate the MDM profile on these devices. So first, for Apple, we have Apple Business Manager, and for Android, Zero Touch and Knox Mobile Enrollment for Android devices and Samsung. And benefits of automating the enrollment or going through this way is you have a full support for profiles and configuration, meaning like you can deploy or you can lock or apply any type of policies or restrictions on the device end. Because when it comes to a personal device, you will not be able to lock the camera or video recording option because these are for personal use. But when it comes to company devices or methods through which admin performs an enrollment, you'd be able to even lock the call and SMS functionalities even. So you will have a full support for profile and configuration. And also you can silently deploy the application without even a single prompt on the device end or on the user device end. And you will also be able to whitelist application. It's like an app lock mode where you can restrict the users to use only a set of application. And apart from that, the users will not be able to install or remove applications from the device end. So you can also lock the devices with certain applications alone. And you can also schedule and manage the OS update. Say when Google or Apple releases an update and you wish to delay the update for 7 days after and then update it to your devices, you do have an option to schedule and automate the OS update section. So these are certain benefits of the administrated mode of enrollment for new devices. And as a prerequisite, you need to have an account with Apple or Google or Samsung to onboard the devices remotely via serial number. And the devices has to be purchased directly from the store or from the authorized resellers. Only then you'll be able to activate the MDM profile. So these are certain prerequisites. And as the workflow, you need to integrate the ABM or Google or Knox portals with your MDM server first, and then add the devices to the appropriate portals, and then distribute to activate or register the devices. Let me show you the process one by one. So first, let me show you how we can onboard an Apple device using the Apple Business Manager. So you could go to the enrollment section. Like I've said, the steps or the methods which is mentioned under the Apple or Android section under the OS platform, these are for new devices or say company purchase device where you would like to get full device management instead of just the work profile alone. So for Apple, you have the Apple enrollment, which is the first option here. So you need to add the ABM, your server with the ABM portal first. You can click on add server option here. And in case if you are doing it for the first time, and this is how the screen would look like, so you can just download the public key from our MDM. This is again going to be a two-way handshake. You're going to download a file from our MDM, upload that in the Apple Business Manager portal, So Apple offers two portals, as we know, the Apple Business Manager and Apple School Manager. The Apple School Manager, that's ASM, is dedicated for the education institution, and ABM for the business institution, the business purposes. So if you have an account already created with ABM, you can just click on sign in case if you don't have an account, you can just click on sign up and you'll be able to provide the appropriate details. Let me check if I have. Yeah, this is how it would look like for the first time if you're doing it. So you can choose the appropriate portal. And in case if you don't have an ABM account, you can just click on sign up. And this takes you to the page where you have to provide your organization details, the name, the number, and website information, and you can sign up for an account. So let's assume I already have an ABM account. I'll just click on sign in. And I will log into the ABM portal. And once after I sign up, this is how the portal would look like. So you might need to add the MDM server under ABM portal, settings, device management settings, and add MDM server. You have the option over there. You can go to the settings section, device management settings, and click on add MDM server. So you can specify the name as per your need, like say, and you can upload the file which you're going to download from this particular MDM instance. So you have to download the appropriate instance from your end and upload it back into the ABM portal. Then after, it generates another S token from the ABM portal, which needs to be downloaded and uploaded back to our solution. So this is again like a two-way handshake. So you get a file from our solution and upload back here. And this is mandatory because you need to mention the S token is valid only for yours, so you might need to run them again. So you have to specify the email address. And then you can choose the appropriate group. So for example, if a device has been onboarded through this Apple enrollment technique, I want them to be automatically added to the appropriate group. So you can just make use of that. And as I said in the beginning, when it comes to a new device, the initial setup has to be done manually by the user or an admin. So you can skip all of these settings like configuring Apple ID, Touch ID setup, location services, privacy settings. You can skip all of these steps with a single click, and you'll be able to integrate or activate the devices. So this is how you'll be able to add your MDM with ABM portal. Once this is done, you can go to the Apple Business Manager and click on the devices. And even you'd be able to choose the customer numbers and the reseller IDs here. I'll tell you the benefit of providing these information on the ABM portals now. So when you say, let's assume initial phase, you onboard 10 devices and you test these features and you're going to procure more like 100 devices down the line, you don't have to go ahead to the ABM portals, select the device and move it to the management section. You can just mention the Apple customer number or reseller IDs here. So if you purchase the devices from these Apple customer store or Apple, the appropriate reseller, automatically these device information will be uploaded to your ABM instance, and it will also be assigned to the appropriate MDM profile you choose. So these are certain benefits of adding the device or the customer numbers and resellers IDs into your Apple portal. And once after the integration is done, in order to assign the MDM profile, you just need to go to the devices section, click on the device name and choose edit device management. Even you can choose multiple devices and choose the appropriate MDM server for which you're going to assign these devices to. And say you're going to add it to the Zilker SFO organization and then click on continue. That's it. So you have integrated your MDM with ABM, selected the devices from the appropriate ABM portals like this. You go to the devices section and you can select the appropriate devices you're going to manage. and click on Edit Device Management and choose the appropriate MDM server you do. And once this is done, automatically the devices will have the MDM profile, and the end user just needs to turn on the device. If it is a brand new device, or say out of the box enroll, where you directly hand over the new device to the employee's form, or with this current lockdown situation, the end user just needs to turn on the device. Automatically, the device serial number will be verified, and the MDM profile will start to install on the device then. And I can even show you how the UI would look like on the device. So that's when a user turns on the device, they will get an option to choose the country and language, and then they will connect to a Wi-Fi. As soon as the device is connected to the Wi-Fi, it will start to validate the MDM profile deployed to the device, and it will start to install that. So the users will never be able to skip this step. So this is how it automatically validates the device serial number and makes the MDM profile downloaded and installed on the device. So this is how you can do the enrollment over the air. Either an MDM admin doesn't have to keep the phones on hand for onboarding, or even the user. Just using the ABM portals over the air, you can assign the MDM profile to the devices. And now let me show you for the Android. I have the zero touch enrollment method. So you can again go to the enrollment tab. There are other methods as well available. But zero touch enrollment is similar to that of Apple enrollment, where you using the Google zero touch portal, you can assign the device serial number to the appropriate MDM profile. So again, if you have a zero touch portal account, you can click on login, and this is how it would even look like, the zero touch portal UI. And you need to click on the configuration section, choose the plus symbol to add your own MDM server details. And when you click on the option, you would have the drop down to choose the appropriate configuration name, the DPC token. The ManageEngine MDM is our DPC token. You can mention it here. And the DPC extras is also available here, which needs to be copied from the zero touch portal from your MDM instance and has to be updated here. And then mention the company details and administrator's email address here. So this is how you add the MDM configuration of our product into the Google Zero Touch portal. Once that is done, you can add the devices here. You can just submit the device details to Google Support and they will approve it. Once the device information have been reflected under the Zero Touch portal, you can select and add these devices to this appropriate configuration or MDM configuration, which you have created for your MDM instance. And on the device end, like I said before, the end user just needs to turn on the device and it will straight away start to validate the device serial number. And if it has been mapped to any of the instance, it shows this has been added to ManageEngine MDM. You need to accept and continue. So the users will never have an option to skip it. The user needs to accept and continue. Once that is done, it will set up the work account on the devices and the enrollment will be completed. So this is how you onboard the devices via Zero Touch portal as well. So these are the enrollment methods we have within our solution. Like I said, there are around 10 methods of enrollment we have. So the devices which are already in use, you could go with email or self-enrollment. And the devices which are new, or say these are company phones, and you would like to completely manage like a full device management scope, then the device has to be either new. If not, you might need to do a factory reset and then follow any of these enrollment methods mentioned under the appropriate operating system, say. So we do have a QR code method for the Android devices. So as I stated here, it should either be a new device. If not, you may need to do a factory reset and do the enrollment right from the startup page. So only then you get full device management, either if it is a corporate phone. And in case if it is not possible for you to factory reset the devices, then you can follow these two methods like an email and SMS, the self-enrollment process. So I've selected the ABM and zero touch enrollment out of for the new devices section because there are a lot of methods we have, and due to time constraint, I'm just sticking to these two methods alone today. And moreover, you the viewers can also click on the enrollment tab in case if you have created an account for yourself, since we have this 30-day trial period also. So you can click on this section called how to enroll a device. Go to the enrollment tab scroll down and you will find the quick links here. And you can click on how to enroll a device, where it explains about the ports and the architecture required to manage a device and other type of enrollment as well. So if you want to know about Samsung Knox enrollment, you can just click on the enroll Knox devices and you'll be able to see the step-by-step procedure for it. And in case if you wish to go with QR code, you can also click on this link where you would also see a quick video about it and also the instructions about the enrollment process. So now I'm going to demonstrate how we can apply certain basic policies to your devices. So before I move on, in case of you, the viewers, have any question, please feel free to post them in the chat and our panel team can help you. So once after the devices are onboarded, the administrator will be able to see the device information under the inventory tab, where you can see the list of devices you've onboarded successfully, the device name, username, battery level percentage, UDID information, and OS version. They could choose the required columns and enable it here in the dashboard, and an admin will be able to see it. And like I said, of the basic provisioning, I want to make sure once after the devices are onboarded, I want to configure the company emails to my users and a passcode policy for them to unlock the work profile and Wi-Fi and VPN settings. Likewise, you can create the required policies using a profile management section. You can go to the device management profiles, click on create profile, and you'll be able to define a name for a better understanding. And the passcode profile is where an admin can define a passcode policy for the entire device. It's not just for the work profile. So this is for an Android device. So, and you can also choose whether to go with a pattern lock or a number lock. And let's say even, let me show you the iOS profile side by side. The passcode policy differs for Android and iOS. So you would not have the pattern lock options here, but the same will be available for the Android section. And you can also restrict users from using the fingerprint or iris scanning to unlock the work profile. Likewise, you can choose the appropriate passcode policy based on the business need. And for Apple users, let's say I want my users to have at least a 6-digit passcode to unlock the device. And moreover, if anyone tries to enter a passcode wrongly for more than 6 or 7 times, I would automatically reset the devices. Like this, you can choose a passcode policy based on the business requirement you have and then configure it. And you must need to save the payload before you jump into the other settings. For example, I have configured certain settings here and I move on to the restriction tab. And whatever settings you've changed will go off. So you might need to save the payload before you jump into the next section. And restriction is where, anyway, you would see all these options in the next week's training program. Today, I'll just cover the basic provisioning settings like, say, Wi-Fi profile. So I want to create a passcode policy, a Wi-Fi profile, and a VPN settings and email policies to my devices. So I would just go with this option. So this is my Wi-Fi access ID, let's assume, and I would choose the Wi-Fi access ID name as per the information here. And then you can choose the appropriate security type you have, and then you can even mention the passcode here. And also it shows the Wi-Fi to be automatically connected. So when a user comes within this particular Wi-Fi range, it will automatically be connected. Likewise, even you can add multiple Wi-Fi. So I would add one for the work profile and then a guest profile. And I would choose, even if you're using a certificate-based authentication for guest profiles, you do have an option to add the certificates and then configure the profiles here. Same way, VPN, let's say you're going with this current lockdown situations or work from home scenarios, in case of you're going to use VPN-based connections even from the home users, then you can choose the appropriate VPN client you have, provide the server name and IP address, and the authentication type you are using for the VPN tunnel. You can mention the appropriate details here, and you'll be able to deploy this particular profile section to all the managed devices you have. And say you're using email or Exchange Active Sync for your mail service, then you do have an option to configure the appropriate information and then choose the mail client app as well. Say I want to configure this Exchange server onto the Outlook app. I don't want to use the default Gmail or Samsung email application on the devices. I want this particular corporate Exchange server details has to be configured only on the Outlook app. Then I would choose the email client as it is. So you can choose the appropriate details and then publish the profile. So you might need to publish this profile to distribute your devices. So I'm publishing it now. So once the profile is created, in order to distribute, you can just click here. If not, you can go to the groups and devices section. And so I would recommend all of the administrators to select an individual device or a couple of devices first, and then distribute the profiles. Then you could go with publishing to the entire group. So I would recommend you to test with 1 or 2 devices and see how the profile settings work. Then you could go to the group section, select all the users or everyone group, and then you can distribute the same profile to the users here. So once this is how you create a profile and distribute to the users, and say as a password policy, in case, as I demonstrated, I have configured a passcode to be at least 6 digits. If the users have already configured a passcode with 6 digits, then they will not receive a prompt like this. In case if they don't, then they will get an option like, say, the password should at least have 6 digits, and you might need to continue to, or you must need to configure the password policy in order to use the device. So the user has to click on continue and then provide a password policy. And this prompt, the very same prompt, what you see here, would appear again and again unless and until the user saves the password based on the norms you have created. And say you want to restrict the users for, since by default in an Android phone, users will not be able to transfer files from the work application to the personal application. But for an Apple device, you might need to apply this restriction policy. So you go to the restrictions tab, security restriction, and then prevent this, like sharing data from managed like work application to personal app, you can restrict it. So if you don't allow this, or if you haven't applied this particular policy, and when a user gets an email attachment file on the work application, they'll be able to open on both personal apps and also on the work application. But after applying the restriction as shown in the profile, the users will be restricted to open the application only on the corporate app being deployed through a solution. So these are certain policies which has to be configured right after the enrollment is done. So you could enroll your devices from this section and go to the device management tab profile to create a basic configuration profile based on the business needs, and then distribute your devices. And now I'm going to show you how we can secure the corporate email from the unauthorized access or from the unauthorized devices. So we have the conditional exchange access policy within our MDM, where you can integrate your MDM with the Exchange server and enforce the policy. So that only the devices which is registered with MDM will only be able to access your email server. So for that, you can go to the device management section, conditional access, and you can provide your Office 365 accounts or on-premise details, and then save the information. Once after the server details are added or integrated with your MDM, then you can configure the access policy. You can click on configure now and choose whether to apply this policy for all the users or only to select user. We even show it to you on the product UI itself. You can go to the Exchange section here, and server detail is where you have to provide your on-premise or Exchange or Office 365 email server details. Once that is done, you can go to the access policy and choose whether to apply this access policy to all your users. So when you go with all users, whenever any user tries to access your mailbox without the MDM profile install, then they will get a message stating that as per the corporate policy, only devices registered with MDM can access mailbox. So you need to access the self-enrollment URL and register your device to continue using the mailbox. So that's how the prompt would appear. In case if you don't want to apply this conditional access policy to all your users, only to select a group of users, then you do have an option to choose the required users alone here. And let's say I'm selecting these user groups alone. So only the users only these 2 users, when they try to log in to my Exchange server without having the MDM profile, then they'll be getting this very same prompt. So you will not be able to log in without having the MDM profile installed. So use this enrollment link and register your phone. You can choose as per your need, and you can apply this policy immediately. If not, you can give a grace period for, say, for a week. I want to give 7 days grace period for my users, and they would get a message like, say, you only have 6 days remaining to install the MDM profile. Only then you'll be able to continue using your email. Likewise, the prompt would appear for the number of days, and if the user haven't enroll the device within 7 days, then they will directly get this message. So you're not allowed to use your Exchange server, or you will not be able to log into your mailbox without enrolling a device and use this enrollment URL to register. So this is how you can secure your mail server so that only the registered users will access the mailbox. And so I've just explained certain use cases and the enrollment procedures so far in today's training. In case if the viewers have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. And now I'm going to share some real-time scenarios and the solution which I have faced in my support experience. The first scenario I've taken is, so is it possible to enroll a device which are not purchased from authorized resellers into Apple Business Manager? So this is also a common question because sometimes the organization would receive devices as a gift, or they would have already purchased from other resellers instead of the Apple Store or certain authorized resellers. Then is it possible for the devices to add it on the ABM? Yes. And also they can supervise the device using the Apple configurator technique. So you need to connect these devices into a MacBook, which has the Apple configurator 2.0 and above. And you can choose this option. When you provision the devices using the Apple configurator, so which is the second method of onboarding a corporate device, you can go to the Apple configurator section. You can find the configuration steps here, where you can connect the devices to a MacBook and create a Wi-Fi profile in Apple configurator. And then here you have the option called add these devices to the device enrollment program. That's the DEP or ABM. And the devices, even which are not purchased from certain resellers or Apple Store, can also be added to the ABM portal through this particular method. And second scenario, I want to leverage the benefits of zero-touch enrollment, but some of my devices are not supported. How do I enroll these? That's why you have other method of enrollment in Android, where you can go with EMM token. So even if the devices are not zero-touch support, you could go with EMM token, where you can just scan a QR code and register your phone. If not, NFC enrollment, where an admin can install the NFC enrollment app on your phone, and using the near-field communication feature, you can bump the client devices and register your device. And third scenario, so what will happen if two contradictory profiles are applied to the same device? So it depends on the operating system again. So if it is an Apple device, the most stringent policy or the most secure policy will get applied. Say there are two profiles, one with camera restricted and second one with camera allowed. So if you push these two profiles to the same device, the camera restrictions will stay behind on the Apple devices because the most strict policies will be overwritten. But when it comes to an Android device, the latest policy will take its precedence. So if you have applied a camera restriction on the first profile, and say on the second day later on, if you created second profile and by having the camera option enabled, it will be applied to the device. So the users will be able to use the camera once after the second profile is applied. So it depends on the operating system again. And how can we ensure the users connect only to the Wi-Fi, which is being distributed through our MDM alone? So this is also one of the requests which we have been getting frequently in the support these days. So if you want to make sure the device connect only to the certain network which you define, you can either choose with iOS or Android section. Go to Restriction tab and go to the network and roaming restriction, and you can choose the Wi-Fi to be always on first, and then connect to the Wi-Fi, which is distributed only through our MDM. So for this to work, you need to first create a Wi-Fi profile, and you should have applied these Wi-Fi profiles to your devices. Only then it is recommended to come here and enable this option, so that the Wi-Fi profile, whichever it has been distributed to the devices via MDM, will only be available for them to use. And how can we prevent sensitive corporate content from being displayed on the lock screen? Yeah, sometimes the users would even get corporate emails and corporate messages from the administrators. And if you wish to not to display these message content on the lock screen, you have the restrictions available within the product itself. So you have the lock screen notification preference, where you can first, by default, it will have the option to show all notification content, but you can either hide sensitive content alone, so that the users will only get a message like, say, one message received on this particular app, or one mail received from this particular address. Likewise, you would only be able to get a high-level notification message, but not the content about it. So this is how we can choose the appropriate notification preference and distribute this profile to all your devices. And sixth scenario, I need to associate different profiles to a different group with only certain modification. Like I said, maybe this could have been a base profile, which I have created on this webinar today. Say this MDM webinar 2021 may be a base profile. Using this particular settings with certain minor modification, I'm going to deploy this to different groups. So what you can do, you can go to the profile section. Under action, you would have the option copy profile. You can click on copy profile as an option, which will generate another profile with the same settings, which is being generated, which will have this very same restrictions and policies created. So you can do some minor changes based on the business need you have, and then you can distribute this policy to the devices. So this will have the name as a copy, but you can still go ahead and you can change it based on the business need. So these are the scenarios which I felt like sharing with you on today's webinar. I hope you've liked the training. Please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 is being the best. And if you like the training sessions, please spread a word using the hashtag Mobile Device Manager Plus or /ManageEngine. And since we are all connected on these social media platforms these days, you can use any of these platforms at the hashtag value and spread your love. And we'll have the next session on the app management part and device security provisioning, where we will demonstrate about how to install, uninstall, and update applications to your devices. And this will be happening on 2 sessions, like one at 6:30 GMT, and the second session will be at 11:30 Eastern Time. And I thank each and everyone for joining the webinar in your busy schedule. I request everyone to take care and stay safe. Thank you all. Bye.